Good afternoon. Well, I am Award Hanson and here is MASENO TV. I'm being joined by three panelists here. We are going to discuss about inflation in Kenya. Before we go into our topic of discussion, I'm going to give each of them a humble time to do their introduction. As I start with my far right.
Oh, thank you, Harry. I'm Caspar Jiki.
Thank you for hosting me for this show. I am Fiona Benjamin.
And thank you very much, Harry. I'm Fiona Yego.
Thank you so much for joining me for this very marvelous show of discussing the inflation in Kenya. We are going to discuss what has been the cause of inflation in Kenya and how it is affecting the mwananchi, the common mwananchi. Apart from that, we are going to discuss what has been the price stability as well as the price depth affecting this country. Before we start, what do you think, my panel here, what do you think has been the cause of this inflation and how is it affecting the common mwananchi? Yes, Caspar.
Okay, the causes of inflation, they vary. Some are internal, some are external. So to me, personally, I think that most of the problems we have with our inflation, they come from outside the country. You know, the IMF bank advising us on this and that, that brings a lot of problems. You know, we are not that independent.
Yes, yeah. Do you think you have another different perspective of the cause of inflation?
You know, I'm looking at Caspar and talking of IMF bank. At some point, I've seen IMF trying to come together so that they can help the Kenya, the Wanjiku out there. And the first thing is IMF is there. Recently, IMF spoke and they said that they need to look into the fuel issue, which is about subsidizing. So about IMF, I think IMF on some point it's just okay. But according to me, Harry, the cost of inflation is coming from a point that the dollar that we are using right now in Kenya.
Yeah.
For instance, someone can see me putting on this kitenge. It's because of inflation.
Yeah, of course, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right, very right.
Someone
Yeah.
out there is thinking, hey, what's wrong with this lady?
Yeah.
But what I can say is, let me give us a statistic of January 3rd to March 3rd. The rate of US dollars was at 123 and in Kenyan shillings, it is 132.
Of course, right.
Now, if we look at this deferment in the prices and the dollar of US and that is Kenya,
Yes.
there is a big difference and that is what I think is
So
really
you're talking about the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is still affecting the common mwananchi. So it is very funny, my dear listeners, that even what we put on is another cost that is another thing that is really causing a very a high cost of living. What about you, Fiona Benjamin? What do you think has been the high or the cause of inflation in this country?
The cost of inflation in this country has been caused by hoarding of products that are used by the common mwananchi. Products like maize flour, salt that is used regularly by everyone. So when it happens that the large-scale farmers, they hold the maize, so that they can sell it at higher prices, it becomes difficult for the common mwananchi to be able to purchase this commodity. So that is also.
Thank you so much, my panel here. We are now talking about what is the cause of inflation rising in our Kenyan country. It is a very interesting topic, and I'm really humbled to see my dear viewers here listening to this very interesting show. So here in the Kenyan inflation, we are seeing very many incidences that is really happening in country today. Like Fiona Benjamin have talked about the hoarding of the product. We see that even maize product itself is really rising. We see it is really rising very, very high. When you compare in our different countries in Nairobi or rather in Kisumu County, we are seeing that it's a different in our maize prices, right? So like we take for instance the common mwananchi when it's in need of ugali, we see that the quantity of eating ugali as compared to Nairobi and in Kisumu County has to differ. I don't know if I'm right there, because when you see the rate that I'm eating ugali now as maybe as a common mwananchi here, the rate has to reduce. Maybe someone from Nairobi is eating two full cups of maybe ugali. It's different from I was eating a 1 cup of what? Of mazi ugali. Am I right? So we see that maize prices is really affecting our Kenyan or our citizens. So, according to you, Fiona Yego, what do you think has been the great reason for this International Monetary Fund? Because we see there before, these people were advocating that there must be a rise in taxation or the double taxation in terms of the petroleum prices, like in kerosene prices. So we see that they are advocating that there must be rise of taxation. Do you think there was a very good reason for them to do that?
One thing I can tell you, Harry, is that it was not all about rise of taxation in diesel and kerosene.
Yeah.
What IMF here they want to do is they want to look at what the Kenyan, the state is doing. The cause of IMF getting into the issue of subsidies of fuel, that was in September during the swearing in of the president, if all of you can remember. The president said it is 144 billion people who are now suffering, billion shillings that is used in fuel subsidies. And if the government could use more than that, then up to now, the range that could have been used is 280 billion, which we can say it is going to affect the whole development funds that is going to be used by the country. But why IMF is getting into this issue? IMF wants to look into these issues of subsidies. They want to target that mwananchi out there, that Wanjiku, that Opio that is out there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fiona Yego.
Yes.
Do you have Fiona Benjamin? You know, these are called the F squared. I'm being joined by F squared. So do not be confused because I'm being joined by two Fiona here. So we have Fiona Yego here and Fiona Benjamin. So my perception is they are my F squared. So Fiona Benjamin, what is your perception according to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund? Do you think what they were advocating for of increasing the taxation in petroleum, fuel, diesel and kerosene, do you think there is a way that this increment is affecting the common mwananchi? Because for instance, we see that someone that is driving a car is using a diesel and a common mwananchi is using a petrol. So we see that in this thing, we see there is a difference of their prices. And what so do you think about this IMF increase of taxation in petrol and diesel?
Okay, according to the IMF, there is a proposal for the increase in taxation of petroleum products from 8% to 16%.
Yeah.
And this is mainly to lower the public borrowing from Kenya. That means as our Kenyan country, we borrow a lot from the outside countries. And the increase in taxation increases the revenue for the government, increasing the national income for the government. Therefore, the amount that it is supposed to borrow from outside is going to be lowered. But then, there is an effect for the common mwananchi, because if taxation is raised on fuel products, prices are going to hike again.
Yeah, thank you so much. Apart from that, let me welcome also Caspar Okoth, Caspar GK, my panelists joining me here. We are also discussing how is unemployment and unemployment, as well as these people living in slum, or we talk about urbanization. Does it bring any effect in inflation? So, Caspar, do you think that urbanization is bringing any effect or the increment in inflation affecting the common mwananchi?
With the simple fact that inflation affects all sectors of the economy.
Yeah.
Obviously, urbanization will be affected to a great deal. You know, Kenya is a very young country that is still growing. We are a third world country.
Thank you.
So anything that affects our economy affects everyone.
Yeah.
Okay?
So when, maybe because of time, we are talking about the urbanization of the location of the rural or the growing city or the small community that are growing there. We see that urbanization is affecting them, Fiona and Benjamin. Urbanization here, we see that many people here go to the development of slums maybe because of the high cost of what? Of housing. Because we see that when one wants to acquire a house, you see that the price gauge is really high as compared to those houses in rural area, if I'm right. Because we see that common mwananchi will go for the basic necessity. Yeah, the basic necessity, which is food production, which itself, the food production has also gone high. So we see that the common mwananchi here is getting much of what? Much of her attention to the basic commodities. Now we see development of slums there. We see now, which is leading as well to the crisis of what? Of this crisis, right? Of social evil there, my dear viewers. So what is your perspective, Yego, about this development of slum? Do you think that when we see common mwananchi living in slum and taking her or his time do what? To acquire the food, the basic food like now unga of the maize flour. So do you think that the common wananchi is doing the right thing? Or now, because of inflation, which is the common wananchi here is going to acquire unga ya ugali and also taking his initiative or her initiative there to live in what? In slum. What is your perspective there?
No, Harry, living in a slum, it's self-opinion. If Leo Yego, I decide to get out of my house because it is too expensive, because of electricity, because of economy, food, then that is my opinion.
Let me cut you short. So when we say that is your option, because we see that recently we see that the salary of those people working in the government, their salary, we see the salary reduction, right?
Yes.
So do you think that will be someone's initiative to say that because I'm tired of living in slum, let me now maybe move out because I have some little cash, or because of my salary, let me go and live at in a better standard?
You know, according to me, Harry,
yes,
a slum, I cannot call it a better standard, but it is because of situations that you are placed in a slum. But it now depends. You cannot just come from a house that you used to pay, you used to pay 40,000 shillings rent, and you go live in a 6,000 house.
Okay. Thank you so much, Caspar. Do you have any option there when you talk about living in slum and choosing food production, or choosing unga ya ugali or the maize flour over housing? What would you choose according to you?
You know,
yes,
choice of your dwelling place and what you eat, it is personal.
Yes.
But the economy always affects you in a way that you have no option. So I would like to differ with you when you say that it's someone's, like you just decide and to go live to the slum. No one can decide to go there without being pushed by some external force or some internal force. Okay,
what about you, Fiona Benjamin? What do you think about this issue of urbanization, their development of slum, and how is it affecting common wananchi with the price of the unga ya ugali?
For a common wananchi, you have started by saying that salaries are not paid. So it all comes from above. So if my manager right now is not getting paid, I will not receive my salary. So that will force me to go and live in the slums.
Okay, so we are listening here, getting much idea from yes.
It is not a question of choice.
Okay.
It's a situation.
It's a situation.
Yes.
Circumstances force you to go there.
So the situation is what is facing most of us to go to slums.
Yes.
But when we look at the price stability of the commodities, we see that there is a price range of the commodities now.
And they range
when you
from
compare the basic thing, which is our salt, we see that even a kg of salt now being risen from 50 shillings to 80 shillings. And that is a basic thing that maybe a common wananchi maybe can have. Just a mere salt. Yeah. So we see that even that salt which used to be bought by 5 shillings today, a common wananchi is buying at 15 shillings or 10 shillings, which maybe most of them could not afford. You see that? So I don't think if living in slum is a choice, because when you see living in slums here, we see that the cost of living is indeed rising. Yeah, it is indeed rising. Because try and compare. You cannot compare a common wananchi with those people working in our government today, because we see that in the past politics here, we see that our very politicians were really advocating for many promises, like mostly was increasing the unga ya ugali, talking about Mama Wamboga, thereby our very own President Dr. William Samoei Ruto. He was advocating that even Mama Wamboga of today is able to afford what, will be able to live a good life. We see that. We see Wilbaro coming in there for the hustler people here. But again, up to this point here, we are still seeing that indeed inflation is indeed rising so much. I'll debate with them, but I don't know what is your view there, my dear viewer. But I'll debate with them, because when we see the way the cost of living is really increasing, and when we try and come to the promises that were made by our very own politicians during their campaign, indeed they are saying that they are going to fulfill all their good promises that they did talk about. I don't know if you have any objection there, Harry, before I go to the next thing.
Harry, before you continue, there's something that is really biting me.
Okay.
You're talking of, let me just go back to slums. I want you to remember there is a phrase that says cheap is expensive.
Okay.
Remember, when you are trying to avoid some circumstance, hapa you see that cost of salt inaweza kupeleka slum. It can't.
So you know,
now,
when you say
issue here is you have to look at the condition of the slum. Remember, there is hygiene there. You have health. You will be increasing more. Now you'll start dealing with hospital bills. And you as a wananchi out there, unajua NHIF card. it will not favor you at some point. Now, you go to a slum, you want to, because you are escaping this cost of, cost of living is something that we now have to deal with it.
Yeah.
The way it is. Now, if going to the slum is yes?
What do you mean by we? Who is this we?
Personally, Yego.
So
and what of you out there?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear man. So when we discuss about when we are trying to talk about this development of slums, which is we see many citizens here are now forced or are being pushed to go and live in slums due to the high cost of living, basically. Because the more the high cost of living, because when I was doing maybe my analysis on my data, I was seeing that indeed the inflation has really gone up for the past 3 months, when we begin from January to March, the inflation has risen to 9.2%. Up to this point. So just imagine now the inflation rising to 9.2%. How is common Mwananchi taking this price stability? Because when we see this inflation rising here, see that many commodities are really affected. You see, maybe even those people who are giving, who are providing labors are also affected. Those who are providing different services are also affected. Not only the provision of services, those who are doing, the hawkers are also affected by this. Because when we try and compare, recently we see that yesterday the price of maize flour in Nairobi was brought down by almost 30 shillings, which were from 200 shillings to 154 shillings. So there is a difference here where we see that in Nairobi, our CBD here.
But Harry, it is not felt by the common Mwananchi.
Okay,
that is in the city.
But now I want you to remember it is going to be felt by the fact that right now, I just read in the newspaper in the morning that maize is now being imported to Kenya, and now shopkeepers and all those people dealing with all these maize plant issues, they are forced to give out maize.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When we are saying about now they are being imported, listen here,
we are an agricultural country.
Thank you. You know, when we are saying they are being imported, they remember there is fuel prices also being affected there, right? We have just said that the price of petrol is affected, the price of diesel is affected as well. So you know, when we say that being imported, remember the cost of transportation is affected. When the cost of transportation is affected, the cost of the commodities as well are affected, right? Because when we import them, remember, the more you import the goods, the more we see their value also diminishes, it goes down. Like, so that is the reason why even the Kenyan country also should try the level best there to try and do much of their import or develop more in their agriculture. You see, because we believe that in fact Kenya can be a good agricultural sector can really do a lot in agriculture, whereby a common Mwananchi who is now suffering from getting just a basic unga ya ugali can get it. Sindio? So we should try and do this thing by balancing this common Mwananchi. Let us not give those people who are living there. You know, the hypography is created there, Fiona. I don't know why you're laughing. But when we see the hypography being created here, the common Mwananchi is down there, right? The common politician is up there. Sindio? So we are seeing that the politician or our leaders, they are more benefiting after using some propaganda that give me the government, I give you what you need. Sindio? So I don't know. What do you think about this price stability? Again, because do you think this unga ya ugali, which have been just reduced recently from 200 shillings to 150 shillings, is it going to reach a common Mwananchi? Just remember now, in Turkana there, is it going to reach there with the same amount?
No.
What about people in Samburu?
It can't.
It can't. So which means the price will rise.
Obviously, the price is still the same. It is just propaganda, government propaganda. They want us to feel good they've done something. But this is politics.
Do you have something about that?
I have something, because I just told you, I read the newspaper today morning, and what it said is that shopkeepers right now, they're really distributing, they are now selling the unga at a low price because of the imported cheap maize that is going to come. Now, if imagine, you're still keeping your unga at 230, 210, and there's this cheap maize flour that is coming, it is being imported.
Okay.
You're going to go at a loss.
What do you think about the price stability of this unga? Do you think this price stability of this unga is going to affect those people in Turkana, or are they going to get it at a lower price as compared to Nairobi?
They will definitely get it at a different price, because we are saying for it to reach the people in Turkana, transport is needed. And recently the subsidies in petrol and diesel were removed. So meaning that this, to the common Mwananchi, the petrol prices is very high. So for it to reach there, it must accommodate for all of this so that the profit goes back to the manufacturer. So I don't think that the situation where unga right now in Nairobi is 150 Kenya shillings. In Turkana, maybe it will reach at 180 Kenya shillings, right?
Okay, you know, but I really like a quote here which was placed by a very great economist here. You were saying that the Kenyan rate of urbanization will continue to increase the pressure on housing and urban infrastructure. Housing is inadequate, and the growth of slums and informal settlement is also doing what? It's also expanding. So you know, I guess this economist here really got the good gesture of this, because when he was saying that the housing of slum is going to increase, when this increases, the price of Unga also increases. Because when slums increases, or we see the development of these slums around the country. Let's talk the much slums in Nairobi, right? We see that slum is much developed in Nairobi. Like we accept that Kenya is a third world country that is still developing, right? We still needs more of international relation with other countries, or also much of transformation, right?
No, not right.
Transformation must be there. Remember, Kenya is a third world country.
Yes, it
still needs to be developed, right?
Yes,
so that a common mwananchi
but it can be
may
developed
have,
by Kenyans.
allow me, so that a common mwananchi may have those services that are being offered in Europe. Yeah, because we see that when
we can't compare ourselves with Europe.
that's the way I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that our country needs transformation. It needs development, because this Kenya is really full of corruption. Let us not take the answer that Kenya is not developed. It is corruption that is making the Kenya to remain in this dungeon of what? Of poverty. Yeah, because we see most of them now are crying for the government, but not only the government. The corruption has really invaded, causing the inflation to go up. Right? Because we see that the industries,
those of us should come and help us fight corruption.
Look at this instance. The industries that are doing the production of different commodities, both of them are bringing this thing at what? At a different prices. You see that? So I think there also we need some development in
the reason to that, where you see the prices in Apanda June, I told you number one fact is about the dollars. The dollars zina vary. Kenya, it has a high rate than the US dollar.
And 134.5.
Okay,
yes.
because of time.
Let me explain this to you, Harry, so that this Mwananchi can understand.
Okay.
Recently, I went to buy a phone, and according to what I wanted, the phone I got, it was at 50,000.
Okay.
And the phone that was 50,000, it had increased by 6,000.
And what kind of phone is this?
And what I tried to bargain the amount, and they told me, unajua nini? We cannot bargain this because of what the US dollars has done. So imagine that rate you're being told what the US dollars has done. What do you expect? The economy is going, and after 3 days, because I said I'll not negotiate, let me go think and I'll call you back.
Okay.
And after calling him after 3 days, the phone was at 59,000.
Are you just serious saying 59,000 after 3 days?
After 3 days, because of US dollars.
So ironic. This is so ironic.
It was increasing.
Okay, so the inflation is really affected. Just imagine now a phone now rising with over 9,000 in 3 days. It is really affecting our Kenyan community.
3,000.
But because of time,
yes.
We are summarizing this topic of discussion here. Maybe Caspar or Fiona Benjamin or you, Diego, what do you think can be the best remedy? Maybe just 30 seconds each. What can be the best remedy or the solution for inflation? Yeah, to avoid inflation. What can be the best solution?
To avoid inflation, first of all, as a country, we have to stop importing products so that we can save the money that we are sending overseas to
maybe the money that we are sending to other developed countries.
To develop our own country. Like for example, if we start irrigation schemes in semi-arid and arid areas, especially in Kenya, where it's not everywhere that we receive.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are talking about now development or getting into importation of some product. Caspar, we are just ending up. What do you think is your remedy, or do you think the Kenyan government should do to maybe to reduce inflation?
Inflation is a gradual thing.
Yeah.
It occurred gradually.
And it will still occur.
No,
but what is varying is the percentage.
Okay, thank you so much, Fiona. Allow Caspar to finish his point because of time. We're chasing time. So Caspar, maybe you can tell me your last point, then we end this topic of discussion.
We'll have to end it gradually.
Yeah.
First, by believing in ourselves and believing that as a country, yes, there are some things we can't do by ourselves, but there are some things we can do, like the agricultural sector.
Okay, thank you so much, my dear viewers and my dear listeners. This has been MASENO TV, and this has been the Hot Gun Show, bringing you the business discussion on how is economy affecting our country in Kenya. I have been your host, War Hanson.